It was the long-awaited return of Aaron Rodgers, and I don't know about you, but I actually was holding my breath until he completed that first drive. Just a little PTSD from last year. But Michael, what were your takeaways from Rodgers' return to the field?
Well, I thought the offense was so basic. I don't know what Nathaniel Hackett was trying to do. I mean, he was trying to establish Breece Hall in the run game. I think, to me, when you play the 49ers, you have to start fast. You have to play from in front. You've got to be able to force them away from their run game and into a drop-back pass game. And the only way you really can do that is by getting the lead. Football's a game about, everybody thinks establish the run or no, you want to establish the pass. And you want to establish the lead. That's how you score points. And I thought the game planning by the Jets was so basic. They ran, Bill Walsh was watching down from heaven, looking at the game at Levi Stadium and saying, I installed this back in 1968. This is old stuff, man. There's nothing new here. This is like playing an album that you played when you were growing up. It's the same songs over and over again. So I thought it was basic. I do think Rodgers' foot speed and his quickness to elude is not the same as it was 2 years ago. But that's just human nature. That's what happens when you get old. So I think the Jets have to have a specific way of handling things. I was very disappointed in their conditioning. I was very disappointed in their edge setting, the defense, and their lack of adjustments to what Kyle Shanahan was going to do. So, Harrison, for me, Robert Saleh did not disappoint. You don't have a less than 30% win percentage and all of a sudden become Newt Rockne on Monday night. He fulfilled everything I believe in him, and he's why the Jets will never win.
Yeah, there was some disappointment there. I think the chief among them is just their inability to get the 49ers off the field, letting Jordan Mason and that 49ers offense kind of run all over them, dominate the time of possession was definitely a disappointing thing if you're a Jets backer or if you're a Jets fan. From an offensive side of the ball, I think there are some people out there who are going to look at Aaron Rodgers and say it feels similar to some of the accusations that he had when he was in Green Bay, where felt like he was only targeting Devontae Adams. It felt like the only pass catcher that was even eligible to get a target felt like Garrett Wilson until later on in the game. But at the same time, too, we have to give some credit. There were some plays that were made early in the game that really helped set the tone for the 49ers. That Fred Warner punch fumble on Breece Hall, that was a hell of a play. Now, even though it only resulted in 3 points, that killed the drive. That killed any momentum that the Jets were trying to build up. So a disappointing start for the Jets. But I would like to think that they're going to have some more diversity to that offense as the season goes along, as maybe they're not playing a team as talented as the 49ers. But that rushing defense is also something that would be a concern as well. If they're not able to control time of possession, you're really not going to give Aaron Rodgers, the guy you paid a lot of money to show what he can actually do, Grace.
Yeah, I do think the Jets got a little bit unlucky because you had the Rodgers interception bounced off of one guy and ricocheted up into the air for the defender to catch. Wide receivers had a lot of drops, including that first half pass to Lazard that would have converted a third down and kept the drive alive. And then you have the Breece Hall fumble. So, people want to make this game about Aaron Rodgers. He had a lot of unlucky moments, but after the game, Robert Saleh with his thoughts on how it went.
The defense, did not play like you used to play.
Yeah, it's anytime you get run on like that. And credit to them, like I said, it's a championship outfit, and they introduced us to some championship football, and we'll get that fixed.
Oh, God, I love it. It's so good, okay. Grace. I love it.
So,
he's going to get it fixed. Why not get it fixed on Monday during the game? I think that's part of coaching, right? You've got to be able to see the game plan. Kyle Shanahan was very specific in how he wants to run a game plan. Then you've got to make adjustments. And I think ultimately that's where the Jets are. The Jets are so scheme-based, and they've got good players defensively. Mosley, Sauce Gardner, Williams inside. But to me, this was a game where Kyle Shanahan knew Robert Saleh, and Robert Saleh knew Kyle Shanahan. And at the end of the game, it was clear Kyle Shanahan knew way more about Robert's defense than Robert knew about Kyle's offense.
Michael, one thing I wanted to...
Go ahead, Grace.
Go ahead, Harrison. Okay, I'll go. One matchup I wanted to ask you about, Michael, was Garrett Wilson, because he started this game on fire with 4 catches in the first 11 minutes. Then he just disappeared. He wasn't targeted again until the third quarter, and that was the interception. But I was listening to a breakdown, and what this crew was saying is that the 49ers started by matching up linebackers with Garrett Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers was just exploiting that. Then they obviously caught on and switched to cornerback Lenore, and that's when we saw Garrett Wilson disappear. And we didn't really see anything else from the rest of his weapons on the field. So I was curious what you thought about that matchup.
Well, I think, that one drive where they had the scoring drive on it was Garrett Wilson caught 3 passes, converted 3 third downs in a row, and he was the playmaker. And Coach Belichick was screaming on the Manning podcast, you got to take Wilson away from the game, and you have to. And then Sorensen waited until after they scored. He went on the sideline. They got it fixed. That's called coaching, right? That's called coaching. You see what the game plan is. You make an adjustment to the game plan based on your game plan, and they did that, and I think they proved to be very effective. And then their rush, once they did that, then all of a sudden Leonard Floyd started to take off coming around the end on Tyron Smith, and we start to see Nick Bosa make an impact, and all of a sudden Rodgers started to get hit and get bumped around, and it became a problem. So, yeah, I think that's it. Look, I think this Jet offense, Harrison, is just too basic. It's day one install of the West Coast offense. I feel like I was back at the 49er practices in 1984 watching Joe Montana run basic plays. They haven't changed much. And for all, remember, this offseason, they tried to bring somebody in for Nathaniel Hackett, and they knew Rodgers wasn't going to go for it, so they didn't make that change. This offense looks so basic, and they were so intent on trying to run a ball against a defense that's hard to run the ball on.
Yeah, it reminds me, you just got to take advantage of the defense in which the way that you're able to, and you pointed that out correctly, Michael. They should have been more pass happy in the beginning of the game. Definitely a disappointing start, but again, I think if they start the game better, or they start the game with more pass happy, maybe there's a different result here. But I would say this, and maybe the biggest disgrace of all of Monday Night Football, when they had to do the report on Haason Reddick, I shook. I'm not a Jets fan, but I just shook my head at how disgraceful this whole situation is. How unfortunate. You go into this Monday Night Football game. There's no Christian McCaffrey. You have these 49er players, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, all come into agreements at the last minute. Brandon Ayuk was pretty much unseeable last night. He didn't have any impact on the game. But on the other side of the ball, you can't have Haason Reddick even out on the field. He's not traveling with the team. I just think it's an embarrassment. And as a guy who values his money, and I do, to see him throwing away $600,000 a game at the very least and not have this deal signed and the Jets not coming to an agreement, Michael, I was just it's a travesty on both sides. From the Jets front office to Haason Reddick. It makes no sense to me at all. And you have this on primetime TV for all of the NFL world to see. It's just a terrible, absolutely terrible look, especially when the team is running the ball down your throat.
Well, look, I think everybody that's involved in the Haason Reddick camp thought he was going to go in last week. They expected him to go in, and the kid now wants to die on the sword. He's not going to change. It's the most ridiculous holdout ever. Even his agents are saying, look, you're going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Go out there and get double-digit sacks, and you'll make $1 zillion in the open market. Why lose money? Why take this deficit? But, he's relying on principle. Principle's great when it has some element to it that's intellectually good. This doesn't. And so, to me, you're right. I mean, look, the Jets made this trade. They should have known what they were getting into. It's just another layer of why you just can't expect the Jets to win a Super Bowl. If you got a Super Bowl ticket on the Jets, good luck. You got a head coach who's far and below everybody else in the league. I mean, it's going to be hard for him to win. And then you've got all these other issues that go along. And look, if that offensive line doesn't stay healthy, that'll affect Rodgers. So I think what we saw from the Jets was a team not really prepared to play when all of us Grace, me, you, and most everybody here at VSiN were fully engaged to think that they were going to play well and took the points thinking it was a good bet. But they disappointed. And once again, I'm reminded that when you go with Robert Saleh, coach team, you're going to be disappointed, Grace.
Yeah, and you tried to warn me. But, hey, you guys know who the biggest winner of this game last night is? And you're both there in the northern East Coast. The New York Giants. Who's talking about the Giants this morning?
Yeah, that's true. You're right, Grace. You're absolutely right. I mean Brian Daboll's probably breathing a sigh of relief today.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at zero cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.